I'm Corbett Wall with DVAuction, here with your feeder flash for Monday, April the 7th, brought to you in part by Macrocin by Bimeda. Get your affordable and effective treatment up front without any BS and keep your cash in hand. For more information, go to macrocin.com. Also, Joplin Regional Stockyards in Carthage, Missouri. They're expecting an extremely light run of only about 3,000 head this week, and this is one time that I don't think they're going to underestimate how many cattle they're going to have with the market shaking up so much and the board being down so hard there late last week. People just don't see any reason that they have to sell cattle, and they're not going to. So extremely light run expected. Not going to start till 9 o'clock in the morning. They had a big week last week, had a big bred cow special and had a big video sale there, primetime livestock video, but always a lot going on at Joplin Regional Stockyards. For more information on their schedules, you can go to joplinstockyards.com, and you can always view all of their sales at DVAuction.com. Parachute needed. We don't know how far this free fall is going to go. It started on Thursday of last week after President Trump made the announcement of the tariffs coming in that he's enacting on Wednesday. Then Thursday the board was down really hard, and then Friday just dramatically down hard. Of course, your stock market down huge, everything's down, and it's just really taking a toll on all of our publicly traded markets. And more so, people are saying that it's due to the retaliatory moves that China has made. They're not willing to talk. Supposedly, or we've heard reports, there's as many as 50 countries or more that have called and want to make some kind of a deal, either scratch out the tariffs on both sides where they have completely free trade, if that's what they want to do. But China, no, they want to get into a trade war, and they cannot win a trade war with us. You look at China there, and some people forget it's a communist country, okay? Everybody works for the state, and they make all these little plastic things and these little electronic things and stuff like that, and they make a ton of them. Well, let's say they make 200 million chingaletas or dealy bobs or widgets, and they've got 200 million of them. Well, their own people can't buy them because they don't pay those little kids enough to afford those type of things, and they've got to find people that have money that want to use them like we do and that can afford to buy them. And so they basically don't sell any of our products over there. And if they do, they put a huge tariff on them already. Well, they're wanting to put another 34% or something on us like that. They have to work out a deal with us. They cannot exist without that. Not enough other people that have disposable incomes that can spend money on the things that they produce. So, you know, it's going to be some tough times here. And those of you that don't have the stomach for this or are starting to have misgivings about supporting Trump, if you ever were a Trump supporter, what did you think he was going to do? This is exactly what he said he was going to do. He is doing exactly what he said he was going to do, step for step. And it was kind of like, root canal coming up. We knew it was going to be tough whenever he decided to do it, and now we're going through that. And so how far is this thing going to fall? We don't know. Of course, your board tanked so hard late last week. Now we're going to be under extended limits on Monday here. So this thing, you didn't think it took your head off on Friday. It can really take your head off today on Monday. Friday, we did have one traded month that hit the 650 down limit, so it didn't close that way necessarily, but did hit it at some point. Well, if it hits it, then now all the months have a new expanded limit of 975 that they could go down on live cattle futures. Feeder cattle, they did hit the 8 1/4 limit on Friday, And so now the expanded limit is 12 and a quarter it could be down. You know, they've just kept making those things bigger and bigger and bigger, and we think, oh man, it'd be tough if we had one of those. Well, we might have one of those here today on Monday. A lot of us think that it will probably, the board will be down, of course, and it may even go down and test those new expanded limits and then kind of recede or come back a little bit. So we're just going to see what happened. But I tell you what, it's a really, really tough round, and you know, it was so bad over the weekend. You know, at Mocan Livestock Market, DVAuction broadcaster there in Butler, Missouri. My friend Jim Herzog was selling his special cow sale there over the weekend, and you know, it was a special cow sale if Jim was actually selling it himself. But he was selling it himself, and he had some Red Angus first calf heifer pairs in there. He was only able to get $5,750 a pair for them. So, I mean, this thing is really, everything's just falling completely out of bed. Jordan Cattle Auction in San Saba, Texas, over the weekend, they had a special cow sale, and they were only able to yield $6,000 per pair for some Hereford first calf heifer pairs there. So, I mean, it's really, really bad. I hope you guys are getting my facetious nature there. I mean, things are still good. We haven't discovered 10 million more cattle anywhere or anything like that. Nothing has changed in supply and demand. China didn't buy all that much beef off of us anyway, and we're not going to be getting as much, or if we do, it's going to be tariffed from some of the countries that we get a lot of beef from. So it's probably going to be a plus for us if we could just get things to settle down here and get these waves to kind of recede a little bit. I was at Stillwater, Oklahoma at Coffeyville Stockyard Spring Video Special there that they had on Friday night. Sherrick Cattle Company had a big string of spayed heifers in there. They sold 12 loads of them in one whack, spayed heifers. They were good heifers to weigh 8 1/4 for May delivery, and they bring 265 1/4. Well, that may be a little bit lower, maybe a few dollars lower than what they could have brought maybe before all this happened, but it's still nearly $2,200 a head for a spayed heifer, people. I think this thing's going to be okay, but it's easy to say that. We don't know for sure, but it's rough. And then the things that we use for protection, then they stopped those. USDA, their risk management agency, suspended LRPs, or livestock risk protection policies on Friday because things were too tumultuous, and you know, they don't do them on cattle on feed Fridays, so they can stop them anytime that they want. But that doesn't help people's confidence at all when we see that. But it's something that they have to do. But it's wet around, I tell you what, and everybody's got a real optimistic attitude on everything but the board and this tariff thing. It is so wet and absolutely green all of a sudden. It's just all of a sudden it's just green everywhere. I was driving all over Texas and Oklahoma last week. Did not see a spot that wasn't wet and green. And Oklahoma, the meat of Oklahoma is just, I mean, standing in water. This graze out wheat is going to be absolutely rank here within just a week or so. It's crazy how wet it is. Now, get over into the southeast, and they had more than they wanted and had a lot of storms there, but they're wet too. The places that didn't have tornadoes and things, and it's going to be really good for them this spring. It was also good, you know, up in areas of Kansas and Missouri, really wet, and they're going to go into the spring really wet and good, and then they're going to be burning off those Flint Hill pastures here this week and next, getting ready to turn out April the 15th there on those cattle. So that's always an exciting time there in the Flint Hills. But I want to tell you about our DV auction production sales. Every month I give you a DV auction production sale report, and even though we do a lot with the commercial cattle industry and we broadcast about 130 sale barns every week, we do our bread and butter is still production sales, and it's production sales season time. In March we had a lot of big sales there. We had over 41,000 bids on DV Auction Console there on those production sales that we do on site there. Almost 7,800 lots were sold on DV Auction, with total sales totaling over $46 million. Now, myself, on Thursday of last week, I was at Weatherford, Texas at Wolf Cattle Company's sale. You know, they're from up in Minnesota, but they have been having their sales since COVID down in Texas here, and I was there as an online-only sale there, and I had over 2,000 bids on their limousine and limb-flecked cattle there. Sold 214 out of about 350 lots, total lots that was there. So everybody was bidding on DV Auction, and everybody was happy, got what they wanted. And the folks from Wolf Cattle Company were happy, and they had an outstanding sale. Well, with the bulls averaging right at $8,000, and then they sold a pile of them, guys. But really good sale for them. I want to talk about your board for last week and listen on that major drop there. April live cattle futures. Monday was down 102. Tuesday was up 132. Wednesday up $1.25, and then they had that announcement Wednesday afternoon. Thursday, live cattle, April was down 232. Friday down 542. With April live cattle ending the week at 202.62, down 620 for the week. So some pretty tough losses there. On Wednesday, all of your traded months of live cattle were over $2 all the way out to April of 2026. But then on Friday, this April was the only one that was over $2. So significant losses there on live cattle, even though our cash fat cattle market was only down $1. But your June live cattle contracts ended the week at 198.20. That was down 665. April feeder cattle, Monday was down 47 cents. Tuesday was up 182. Wednesday was up 60 cents. Thursday down 347. And Friday down 597. So that is really tough, guys. All of a sudden your cattle are worth $10 100 more than they were just a couple days ago, just because of an announcement of tariffs. But April live cattle or feeder cattle ended the week at 279.42. That was down $7.50 for the week. Your May contracts ended the week at 274.87, down $10.30. So wow. Grains, though, not too bad, except for beans, of course. That's a big export product for us. But May corn ended the week at 460.25. That was actually up 7 cents a bushel for the week. Soybeans down hard, and China does take a lot of our soybeans. They ended the week at 9.77 a bushel, and that was down 46 cents a bushel. Ouch. May hard red winter wheat was ended the week at 557.5, and that was up 5 3/4 cents a bushel. So it was just how things reacted to this, the announcements of the tariffs. And Trump is right. We're tired of being taken advantage of. We have never had tariffs to speak of, and all these other countries, they want to penalize the hell out of our products going into other countries, and it's unfair to our manufacturers, unfair to our workers, and it's unfair to our consumers too. But once we get over this hump, I tell you what, it'll be great. But your fat cattle trade up through Thursday of last week, we'd sold 31,100 head direct out of the 5 area feeding region there. It was a little better in light trade earlier in the week. But then, of course, late in the week, they were using everything they could to get it cheaper. But live sales, fat steers and heifers up through Thursday, ranged from 207 to 215, with a weighted average of 212.26. That was actually 12 cents higher, 12 cents a hundred higher. Your dress sales ranged from 335 to 345, with a weighted average of dress steers at 337.36, which was down about 96 cents. But then Friday is when we saw trade take over, and of course we found out or reminded us what kind of vultures your packers are, because they were begging to buy cattle at 210 all week, just starving for cattle, begging to buy cattle. and then bought a few cattle at 208 early Friday morning down in the south, and then immediately backed their bids up to 205 and less. And it was a little bit better than that in the north, but Iowa sold 7,600 on Friday before 2 o'clock, 21,100 for the week. Live sales on Friday in Iowa, 210 to 213. Dress sales, 330 to 332. Nebraska, 10,500 on Friday. Before 2 o'clock, they'd sold 22,900 for the week. Live sales in Nebraska on Friday, 210 to 212. That's only a buck lower, guys. And dress sales from 333 to 335. And they are some lower, but our dress sales were outstanding the previous week there. Kansas sold 3,650 on Friday, about 6,600 for the week. Live sales on Friday in Kansas from 205 to 208. A little bit of dressed at 329. And Texas sold 1,700 on Friday, about 4,000 for the week. And on Friday, the price range was 204 to 208. So, like I said, you know, it's tough, and they were doing everything they could to get them cheaper, which you can't blame them for that. But it was still, the bulk of the trade still only $1 lower as of right now. Box beef cutout values gained quite a bit of ground last week. Your choice cuts, all of last week's sales had a weighted average of 338.84. That was up 502. But by the end of the week, your late Friday sales are about 40 cents lower than that. Off a little bit, but not terrible. Dress sales, your weighted average on all of last week's sales on the spot market, 319.19. That was up 273. By late Friday, your select market was $2 less than that weighted average. So a little bit of pressure on it too late in the week. Your choice select spread on the weighted average was $19.65. All of that information on 563 loads of cuts, grinds, and trimmings. Your slaughter, 591,000, a little better than maybe what we thought earlier in the week, but that was still 18,000 less than the big week the previous week, and 23,000 less than the same week a year ago. Talk about what else is going on. Kansas Regenerative Medical Center. You need to check them out, guys. If you can't get excited about the downtime or the risks of surgery, consider stem cell treatment. These guys are pioneers in the industry, and you need to go in there and see if they can help you. They'll be able to tell right away. For more information, go to kansasrmc.com. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market, brought to you by Specialty Risk Insurance. They are working to protect your livelihood, guys. Your real-time index on DVAuction ended the week at 289.84, absolutely steady with the end of the previous week. So even though we were up earlier in the week and down some later in the week, your real-time index was actually up 1 penny per $100 weight. So just basically steady. Can't get it any more steady than that. Your latest CME cash feeder cattle index was sitting at 291.95. That will be coming down, especially after Monday's sales, but going to be light volume in there, so it may not come down quite as quick as it would. Oklahoma City's only calling for maybe 1,500, so they're not going to be selling very many, and those are 7-day moving averages, so they may not fall quite as quick as you think they should. But your trends last week, market was still higher last week, all the way up until Thursday. And OKC West, our biggest sale on Wednesday, was sharply higher on steers just this last Wednesday. And then Thursday it was uneven, and then Friday didn't have a lot of late week sales this past week, which was good. But really, we still don't know how much lower the market's going to be. But we did have some individual quotes that I want to give you from all around late last week. Mankato, Kansas, Mankato livestock on Friday sold 125 head of 868-pound steers at $285.25. And that was the best late week eight weight quote that I saw. Nothing like $300 or even in the 290s, but they weighed nearly 870 at $285.25. That's still pretty damn good. I don't care where you're talking, but how about La Crosse Livestock in La Crosse, Kansas? They sold 65 steers, weighed 682 at 338.50. Then a couple of markets that don't talk about very often or have never talked about, and maybe they weren't quite as informed or they weren't quite as worried about what all was going on in politics, but Monte Vista Livestock Auction in Monte Vista, Colorado on Friday sold 68 steer calves. They weighed 488 and bring 411. That's pretty impressive. But the most impressive quote, not for just for where it's at, but for anything. And your Macrison, no BS, top quote for late last week or over the weekend, come out of Carolina Stockyards in Siler City, North Carolina on Friday. It was 101 steer calves. They weighed 389 and bring 461. And that's your feeder flash for Monday.